Hi guys, it's Jane from Vanian, and today we're gonna talk about the fell beasts. The fell beasts are the flying creatures that the Nazgul ride after being unhorsed at the fort of Bruinen in the Fellowship of the Ring. The reason why I'm making a video about the fell beast is that the other day I was doing some research on the military strategy of the Battle of Pelennor Fields for a future video, and as I was flipping through The Return of the King, I spent some time on one of my favorite passages, which is Gandalf's confrontation with the Witch King of Angmar. I made a video on this a few weeks ago, and I'll link to it at the end of this video, should you wish to watch it at a later time. So today, we're talking about the fell beasts. Let's talk about the name fell beast. Fell beasts is not their official name technically. In the book, Tolkien used the adjective fell when referring to them, which in Middle English, fell means ferocious, terrible, or dreadful. Fell from Middle English is the equivalent of foul, which is the modern English equivalent, meaning the same thing. So since these giant creatures are beasts and Tolkien never actually gave them any official name, the name fell beasts kind of just stuck, and here we are. Now, the fell beasts have a distinct look. They're big, dark, scary, two-legged flying creatures. They have these long necks that kind of looks like a giant snake, and they have these huge, evil teeth. The first description that we get for them is in the Fellowship of the Ring, the book that is. And this is in the passage when the Fellowship, they were camping after leaving Lothlorien, and they are in the woods, and what they saw, and the description we get is that they describe a great winged creature blacker than the pits in the night. It wasn't attacking them or anything, but Legolas, being Legolas, shot it with an arrow, and when the arrow hit the fell beast, it gave a harsh croaking scream and vanished. Another description that we get of the foul beast is from one of the chieftains of Harrodale in the Two Towers. The chieftain witnessed one fly over Idoras, and when he went to report it to Theoden and company, he described it as being a dark being in the shape of a monstrous bird. This is actually why the Rohirrim assembled at Downharrow rather than staying in the open valley, because with the fell beasts flying over, they were vulnerable to attack had they stayed.
The scouts report Minas Tirith is surrounded. The lower levels in flames. Everywhere legions of the enemy advance.
The fell beasts don't have much of a history, but what we do know of them is quite interesting. As far as their evolutionary lineage, I guess, what we're told is that they likely came from an older world, so we can assume that they might have existed in the first couple of ages of Middle-earth. We're also told that the Dark Lord Sauron bred them and gave them to the Nazgul after their horses were consumed at the fort of Bruinen by the flood that was caused by Elrond and Gandalf, or Arwen in the film. Unlike their horses, the Nazgul are not alive or dead, so they survive the flooding, and eventually they return to Mordor, and once there, Sauron he hooked them up with the foul beasts as their new modes of transportation. Like, say what you want about Sauron, but you have to admit that the guy takes care of his employees, so although he's a villain, I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. So their look and history alone are chilly, but it is the combination of this as well as the screams of the Nazgul riding them that really makes them bone-chillingly creepy. The Nazgul, or ringwraiths, let out kind of like a shrieking scream, and the scream came out really well in the film. This distinct scream of the Nazgul is described a few times in the book. The first time it's described, it's in the Fellowship of the Ring, in Book 1, Chapter 4, entitled A Shortcut to Mushrooms, which is like a super cool name for a chapter. This is the passage when the hobbits are around Farmer Maggot's field and when the Nazgul are on the hunt for Frodo and the ring. The passage is only a few lines, and this Tolkien who was narrating this, and he describes the scream as a long-drawn wail coming down the wind, like the cry of some evil and lonely creature that rose and fell, and ended on a high piercing note. Tolkien continues, and he tells us that even as the hobbits sat and stood, as if suddenly frozen, the first cry was answered by another cry, fainter and further off, but no less chilling to the blood. Later in Book 1, Chapter 12, when the Nazgul ambushed Frodo at the ford of Bruinen, Tolkien tells us that from the riders came a terrible cry. We're super lucky that the production team stayed true to the source material and did a good job adapting both the Nazgul's shriek and their foul beasts to the big screen. But one of the many advantages of the book is that they offer a level of detail, information, backstory, specific traits about a person, a place, or an event that an on-screen adaptation simply cannot offer. And the foul beasts are a great example of this. There is one specific detail about these creatures that adds another level of malice to them, and we only get this in the book. And that is the fact that they fucking stink. In the book, Tolkien specifies that their bodies give off a stench, and we get this in The Return of the King, Book 5, which is entitled The Battle of Pelennor Field. More specifically, this is the moment when the Witch King of Akmar comes down on his foul beast to confront Eowyn on the battlefield. I'm going to read this a bit because this passage is brilliant. It was a winged creature, if bird, then greater than all other birds, and it was naked, and neither quill nor feather did it bear. And its vast pinions were as webs of hide between horned fingers, and it stank. A creature of an older world, maybe it was, whose kind, fingering in forgotten mountains cold beneath the moon, outstayed their day, and in hideous eyrie bred this last untimely brood, apt to evil. And the Dark Lord took it, and nursed it with fell meats, until it grew beyond the measures of all other things that fly, and he gave it to his servant to be his steed. So here we get the backstory of Sauron playing dad. He kind of stumbled upon this huge and evil bird-like creature, falls in love with it, and kind of adopts it. Sauron being Sauron, his idea of nourishing his new ward is to feed it rotten, spoiled, or probably deadly meats, which is just so typical of Sauron, I guess. What I like about this passage is that it adds weight to the wickedness of the foul beasts. We now know that they are fed this diet of nasty and dangerous meats, and as a result, on top of being huge, evil, and scary, these foul beasts give up a repulsive odor. For me, this tiny detail just about tips the scale in favor of the book description versus the movie adaptation. Now, don't get me wrong, the foul beasts look amazing in the films. The attention to detail is great, like while they are black, they're kind of purplish black, which kind of makes them look like reptiles. I also like that they put a helmet on the dark, on one of them at least. I think just one of them, maybe all of them, but at least one of them has a helmet, which kind of says that the Nazgul or Sauron invested in the maintenance and protection of their modes of transportation. I also like how the wings appear to be ancient. They kind of have holes and they are translucent, so when they flap, you can see light through them, which looks really neat on screen. I also love the shot in which one of them appears. It's like the visual effects are great there. It's that shot when one of them kind of like flaps up the tower, the city wall of Osgiliath from the two towers. The movie is limited in the sense that it's hard to portray or make a smell come out. I mean, I guess they could have made our heroes cover their noses or something, but they instead focused on having our heroes cover their ears when the Nazgul scream, that evil shriek, which is great. This illustrates the chilliness of the screams of the Nazguls very well, and the audience, like, we can definitely get a sense that this cry, this evil shriek, is really evil, which I think is on par with the description that we get in the book.
Feel his blade.
What we don't get in the film is a sense of the hideous odor of the foul beast, and this is fine. I'm not complaining or anything, but as I just explained, it's just one of those little details that adds weight to the wickedness of the foul beast, and you get this in the book. And like, there are things that the movie does better than the books. Take Minas Tirith, for example. That shot when Gandalf is arriving at Minas Tirith and galloping up through the different levels of the city until he reaches the top level in the Citadel definitely outdoes the description in the book, even if the description of the book is amazing. But to me, Tolkien's description of the foul beast outdoes what we get in the film, even if what we get in the film is brilliant. I think that's it for today. I definitely stumbled on this topic by accident. As I continue to pop out content for this channel, I think I'm going to continue to spend time on tiny details that for some reason I find interesting, like the foul beasts and their smell. And I hope you kind of find this interesting too. I'll also sprinkle in some content on the major characters, places, and themes from now and then, but probably sparingly because there's a lot to say and I haven't made up my mind on a lot of stuff yet. I also want to say that The Lord of the Rings on Prime, like with the Lord of the Rings on Prime coming out in September 2022, I plan on diving into the Second Age as well, but I'm not there yet. If you're watching this video, you probably know that Amazon is producing a Lord of the Rings series that will focus on the Second Age of Middle-earth, which is a whole different canvas of characters and storylines. I'm still navigating my way through the history of Middle-earth, the Silmarillion, and Unfinished Tales, so once I get a better grip on the material, I'll start exploring some Second Age stuff on this channel, and if I can, I'm going to try to link it back to Jackson's movies because I really love Jackson's movies. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you wish, like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really does help. Farewell.